driving me. I didn't slow down because slowing down meant listening and listening meant facing things I wasn't ready to hear. I trusted instinct more than reflection. It fucking felt it tight and I chased it. If it pushed back, I pushed harder. I didn't ask why I moved the way I did. I just kept moving. Momentum felt like compass and speed felt like control. But over time, the rhythm started slipping. I was reacting instead of directing, talking instead of deciding. I stayed easy to avoid stillness, filling every gap with motion, so nothing deeper could sadness. There was tension in that daze, a constant friction between where I was and where I said I wanted to go. I ignored it at first, treating it like background static, but static is louder than when you refuse to tune it out. I noticed how often I repeated the same patterns, the same arguments, the same mistakes, dressed up as experience. I told myself I was adapting, but I was really looping. I hadn't mastered survival without progress. The shift came when I caught myself explaining my choices instead of standing in them. I tossed around responsibility, around clarity, around the truth that I wasn't steering, heading on. That realization let it heavy. I wasn't out of options, I was out of honesty with myself. I have been outsourcing my direction to impulse, getting energy to decide instead of intention. That wasn't freedom, that was drift with style. I started listening differently, not to the noise outside, but to the pauses in between. I noticed how silence didn't threaten me the way it used to. It gave me space to hear what actually mattered. I realized that my voice didn't need to be constant to be strong, it needed to be precise. I didn't have to react to everything that moved. I could choose what deserved my attention, and I'll slow my steps just enough to regain balance. Not stopping, not retreating, just recalibrating. I begin asking better questions. Why this move? Why now? Why again? The answers weren't always comfortable, but they were plain. They stripped away the excuses. I used to keep momentum without meaning. I felt exposed at first, like I had stepped out of a familiar rhythm. But exposure brought clarity, and clarity brought control. I learned how to harness pressure instead of fighting it. I stopped pushing against resistance blindly and started using it as feedback. The obstacles told me something about my approach. Every setback forced adjustment. I wasn't losing ground, I was refining my direction. Both stopped feeling abstract and started feeling mechanical, like tuning in engine and feeling responded exactly how I needed it to. My confidence changed shape. It wasn't loud anymore, but it was solid. I didn't need to dominate a moment, own it. Because I used to were down, my sins spoke longer than any performance I had relied on before. There were moments when the old urge to rush came back strong. I felt it in my chest, that familiar pulse or chaos disguises excitement. I acknowledged it without giving in. I'm discovering now that energy without direction burns fast and leaves nothing behind. I chose sustainability over spectacle. That choice felt quieter, but it lasted longer. As I built that discipline, my internal rhythm stabilized and trusted myself to respond instead of react. I didn't flinch at uncertainty. I stepped into it with awareness. I knew that progress didn't come from staying comfortable. dancing in every step and awareness in every pause. I don't fear the noise or the quiet. I know how to navigate both. I carry momentum that doesn't depend on chaos and confidence that doesn't need a crowd.
I can still feel the weight of those years sitting on my shoulders that held me in a crushing way, but persistent, like a hand that never fully lets go. I remember thinking that time alone would sort things out. A distance from old moments would automatically bring clarity. We're standing empty with fragments, half-formed memories and unanswered questions about who I became along the way. I move forward cause that's what people do, but inside I carried a quiet confusion I never addressed. There were days when I missed a version of myself that acted without all overthinking. Back then, decisions felt instinctive, almost effortless. I didn't analyze every outcome or measure every risk. I trusted my reactions, trusted my drive, trusted that even if things went wrong, I'd figure it out. Somewhere along the line, the trust eroded. Experience taught me caution, but it also taught me restraint. And I didn't notice when the strain turned it to hesitation. I told myself I had matured, that slowing down was a sign of wisdom, but the truth was less flattering. I had grown comfortable avoiding disappointment by lowering my expectations. I kept my goals close to the ground so they wouldn't fall far. I learned how to function without fully committing, how to protect my soul by not reaching too high. Worked in a way, but it left me feeling distant from my own ambition. Then I look back, it wasn't the failures that stayed with you, it was the moments I didn't try. Those were the ones that lingered, quietly asking what might have happened if I had chosen differently. I realized that regret didn't come from falling short, it came from standing still when something inside me wanted to move. That realization didn't hurt all at once, it settled in gradually, shaping the way I saw my past. There was a turning point when I stopped romanticizing who I used to be and started paying attention to who I was becoming. I understood that longing for girlier versions of myself wouldn't bring them back. What I could do is carry forward what mattered from those years. The energy, the curiosity, the willingness to step into the unknown. Those weren't lost qualities, they were dormant, waiting for permission to surface again. I began to question the rules I'd have built for myself, the limits I treated as facts instead of habits. I asked why I believe certain doors were closed, and most of the answers trace back to fear, not reality. just by my own reluctance to challenge familiar paths. I started making choices that felt slightly uncomfortable, intentionally so not reckless moves, but honest ones. I said yes when my instinct leaned forward, and know when something felt misaligned. Even if it looked safe from the outside, each decision reminded me that agency wasn't something I lost with time. It was something I neglected, proclaiming it felt like reconnecting with a kind that had always been there. 'Cause I leaned into that momentum. My relationship with the past shifted. Memories stopped feeling like anchors. It started feeling like reference points. They showed me where I came from without dictating where I had to go. I accepted that growth in me, erasing earlier chapters. It meant learning how to read them without getting stuck on the same page. There were moments of doubt, of course, times when old habits tried to pull me back into safe routines and muted expectations. But those moments no longer felt definitive. I recognize them as echoes, now destructions. I learned to acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering to it. Confidence didn't arrive as a sudden rush. It built gradually, reinforced by consistency and followed through. I noticed how my internal dialogue changed. It became less critical, more curious instead of questioning my worth. I questioned my directions instead of assuming limitations. I explored the possibilities. That's just a lie, but a sense of likeness I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't chasing a return to the past. I was creating continuity between who I was and who I wanted to become. Now I move forward with a clearer sense of ownership. I don't measure my progress against old timelines or borrowed expectations. I measure it by alignment, by how honestly I show up in my own life. I understand that momentum isn't about speed, it's about intention. Each step I take carries the weight of choice. I didn't notice the shift at first, the moment when trust stopped feeling natural and started feeling like a risk I had to measure. It crept in slowly, through conversations that felt slightly off, through expectations that never matched reality. I told myself I was fine, that I could adapt, that disappointment was just part of learning. But the truth sat deeper than that. I felt like I had ended pieces of myself away without realizing how much they mattered. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I replayed the past with a sharper edge than before, not looking for comfort but for explanation. I wanted to understand how confidence could turn into caution so quietly. I blame circumstances, timing, other people's choices, anything that kept me from looking too closely at my own decisions. It was easier to say I was unlucky than to admit I had ignored my instincts. I mistook intensity for honesty and excitement for stability, and I paid for it by doubting myself. been damaged, and started seeing myself as someone who had learned imperfectly. But honestly, I recognized the patterns I needed to break, not in others, but in how I responded. I saw how often I stayed quiet to keep the peace, how often I compromised clarity to avoid tension. Those choices felt harmless at the time, but they added up. Naming them gave me leverage I didn't know I had. I made a decision to rebuild my confidence on my own terms. Not loud, not performative, not fueled by proving anything. I focused on consistency instead of intensity. I started listening more closely to the moments when something felt wrong, even if I couldn't explain why. I learned that self-respect wasn't dramatic. It showed up in the small refusals, in the ability to walk away without rehearsing an argument, in the clarity of choosing myself without apology. As I practiced that clarity, my internal voice shifted. It stopped accusing me of being naive and started reminding me that experience doesn't cancel courage. I didn't need to harden to survive, I needed to refine. I learned how to trust without abandoning myself, how to stay open without losing direction. That balance didn't come easily, but it felt honest. There were moments when old doubts resurfaced, questioning whether I was overcorrecting, whether confidence would cost me connection. I let those thoughts pass without letting them steer. I understood that strength wasn't about winning or losing, it was about alignment. I felt grounded in my choices, even when they disappointed someone else. That sense of grounding was new, and it changed the way I carry myself through uncertainty. I stopped expecting validation to confirm my worth. I noticed how freeing it felt to approve of my own decisions without waiting for agreement. I wasn't closing myself off, I was standing more clearly in who I was becoming. Each boundary reinforced my momentum, each honest choice built a rhythm I could rely on. I wasn't reacting anymore, I was directing. The past lost its grip when I stopped using it as a warning and started using it as information. I didn't need to erase it or rewrite it, I needed to integrate it. I carried the lessons forward without dragging the weight. That distinction mattered, it gave me space to move with confidence instead of caution, intention instead of defense. Now I feel the difference in how I step into each day. My confidence doesn't come from bravado or certainty, it comes from self-trust, rebuilt piece by piece. I know what I tolerate, what I protect, and what I pursue. I don't confuse intensity with meaning anymore. I don't trade my voice for approval, I stand in my choices with clarity, even when they're uncomfortable. I'm not defined by what went wrong or who disappointed me. I'm defined by how I responded when I realized I needed to change. I chose to reclaim my direction instead of rehearsing old losses. I chose to build forward instead of hardening backward. I didn't start out feeling strong, I started out feeling exposed. Like every weakness I thought I buried found its way back to the surface at once. I felt watched by my own doubts, measured by standards I never consciously agreed to, but somehow kept obeying. Every setback felt personal, not because it destroyed me, but because it reminded me of how easily I questioned myself when things got hard. I carry that hesitation quietly, letting it shape how far I was willing to go. There was a time when pressure made me sharp, had stopped using mine. I stopped framing effort as something to avoid and started seeing it as something to reclaim. I recognized that discomfort wasn't a signal to stop, it was a signal that I was finally engaged. That shift didn't make things easier, but it made them clearer. I didn't need confidence to begin, I needed commitment. I needed to stay present when things tightened. Instead of pulling away the moment it got intense, I began to approach each challenge with a different mindset. Not asking whether I would win, but whether I would stay in it. I focused on endurance, on showing up fully even when progress was slow. I learned to respect the process instead of rushing the outcome. Each time I resisted the urge to quit early, something inside me strengthened. It wasn't visible at first, but it was real. The voice that once warned me to be careful started changing its tone. It didn't disappear, but it stopped sounding like authority. It became background noise, something I acknowledged without obeying. I learned how to redirect my focus to what I could control. My effort, my discipline, my response. I stopped wasting energy on imagined defeat and redirected it toward consistent action. There were days when I felt raw, when doubt tried to resurface with familiar arguments. I didn't fight it aggressively, I outlasted it. I stayed in motion even if the pace slowed. I learned that resilience wasn't about explosive bursts of courage. It was about refusing to disengage, about staying upright under pressure and choosing not to fold when the weighty increased. As momentum built, I noticed a shift in how I carry myself. My posture changed, my decisions felt firmer. I stopped seeking reassurance that I was on the right path. I trusted the work itself to justify the direction. Each challenge became less about proving myself and more about sharpening myself. I wasn't chasing dominance, I was cultivating strength through repetition and resolve. I stopped looking at obstacles as verdicts and started seeing them as resistance meant to be. Worked against resistance, shaped me. It demanded focus, forced clarity, stripped away excuses. I welcomed it, not because it was easy, because it revealed what I was capable of. When I didn't back down, I learned that intensity wasn't something to fear, it was something to meet head on. The more I leaned into effort, the quieter my doubts became. Not because they vanished, but because they lost relevance. I was too engaged to entertain them. I found rhythm in persistence, power in staying present, confidence in continuity. Each step forward reinforced the next strength. Stopped feeling like an abstract trait and started feeling like something I practice daily. Now when I face challenge, I don't ask if I'm strong enough, I ask if I'm willing enough, willing to stay focused, willing to endure discomfort, willing to keep moving when progress feels slow and pressure builds. That willingness has become my foundation. It grounds me more than certainty ever did. I no longer wait to feel powerful before I act. I act until power follows. I act until power falls. I remember standing still while everything around me kept moving, like the world had found its rhythm and I missed the count. I laughed it off when people asked what I was waiting for, but the truth lived somewhere deeper than excuses. I was tired of calculating every possible outcome, tired of imagining the fall before I ever left the ground. I told myself that thinking it through made me smart, but it mostly made me stuck. I felt the weight of my own hesitation pressing down harder than any real obstacle ever had. There was a time when risk felt natural, when momentum came from instinct instead of permission. Somewhere along the way, I traded that instinct for caution and called it maturity. I learned how to stay balanced instead of bold. didn't come from a dramatic moment. It came from impatience. I got tired of watching my own potential sit untouched. I realized that doing nothing was still a choice, and it was costing me more than any wrong move ever could. That thought hit like a spark. I didn't suddenly feel brave, but I felt awake. I understood that control was an illusion I clung to, because it felt safer than uncertainty. I started paying attention to my body instead of my doubts. I noticed how energy returned when I stopped overthinking and started acting. It felt awkward at first, like using muscles I hadn't trusted in years. I made decisions without overanalyzing them, small ones at first, just enough to prove that I could survive my own choices. Each step carried a rush I had forgotten, a reminder that momentum creates its own confidence. I stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started recognizing the present one. I realized that readiness wasn't something I could feel in advance. It was something I could only confirm after I moved. The fear didn't disappear, but it lost its authority. It became background noise instead of a command. I learned that hesitation feeds on stillness, and action starves it out. As I leaned into motion, my inner voice changed its tone. It stopped warning me about everything that could go wrong and started asking where I wanted to go next. That question felt lighter, more open. I wasn't trying to escape who I was trying to engage with myself again. I let excitement exist without immediately taming it. I let curiosity pull me forward instead of fear pulling me back. There were missteps, moments when I questioned my direction, but they felt different this time. They felt like part of the process instead of proof that I should stop. I learned how to adjust without retreating. I understood that confidence wasn't about getting it right every time. It was about trusting myself to respond when things shifted. I wasn't frozen anymore, I was participating. More by clarity I never found in stillness. The more I acted, the less I obsessed over outcomes. I focused on the energy of forward motion, the simple truth that doing something always taught me more than thinking about everything. I felt connected to myself again, not because I had answers, but because I was finally asking better questions. Questions rooted in possibility instead of fear. Now I feel the pulse of momentum under my feet. I don't need a countdown or a signal. I know that staying grounded doesn't mean staying still. It means choosing to move with intention and trusting myself to land. I am done standing at the edge, measuring the distance, rehearsing the fall. I am stepping forward because growth doesn't happen in the pause. It happens in the leap, in the decision to trust motion over hesitation, and in the choice to move now, fully alive, fully committed, and finally in sync with myself. I spent a long time mistaking stillness for loyalty, standing where I started because it felt honorable. I learned how to wait without questioning why, how to stay even when my instincts lean forward. I told myself patience was character, that holding on proved something, but deep inside I felt the tension of wings folded for too long. I watched the horizon without moving toward it, convincing myself that looking was enough. Every urge to leave came with guilt attached, as if wanting distance meant rejecting my past. So I stayed rooted in familiar ground, even as my thoughts kept traveling, even as my spirit kept stretching past the line. There were days I felt split into one part committed to what was known, the other restless, asking for air. I tried to silence that voice, called it distraction, call it immaturity, anything but the truth. The truth was simple and uncomfortable. I had grown and growth doesn't ask politely. It leans, it pulls, it demands space, no matter how carefully you try to contain it. I wasn't angry at where I came from, I wasn't trying to erase anything. I just couldn't stay the same size, and pretending I could was slowly turning into self-denial. I felt it in the heaviness of staying, in the quiet relief I imagined in leaving. Letting go didn't happen all at once. It started as permission to want more distance, more movement, more honesty with myself. I stopped framing departure as loss and started seeing it as continuation. I didn't leave out of rejection, I left out of alignment, out of the need to follow what was unfolding. Instead of freezing it in place, I carried gratitude with me, not obligation. I understood that appreciation doesn't require permanence. Fear followed me closely at first, whispering that freedom was irresponsible, that independence meant isolation. But as I kept moving, that fear grew quieter, not because it disappeared, but because it no longer defined the direction. I felt my breath deepen as space opened, my thoughts stretched without resistance. The farther I moved, the clearer I became. Not louder, not harder, just more myself. I learned that freedom isn't chaos, it's responsibility turned inward. It's choosing your own weight and carrying it willingly. It's understanding that no one else can walk your distance for you. There were moments when doubt returned, when memory tried to anchor me back with familiar comfort, but I recognized the difference between honoring where I'd been and living there forever. I chose forward motion again. I didn't need to burn bridges behind me, I simply stopped standing on them. I let the past exist without holding me in place. I allowed change, to be honest, not dramatic, just necessary. As I moved, I felt something open inside me, a sense of direction that didn't ask for approval, a trust in my own timing. I wasn't escaping, I was expanding, learning how far my own voice could travel. I realized confidence doesn't shout, it releases, it loosens its grip on explanations. It stops asking for permission to evolve. It trusts movement more than comfort and truth, more than familiarity. I let myself take the long way, the uncertain way, the road that didn't promise return, because I understood then that staying safe was no longer safer than honoring what I had become. There's a strength in motion I never felt before, not rushed, unrestrained. I don't measure my steps by distance anymore. I measure them by honesty, by how fully I inhabit each one. I am no longer afraid of open endings, of long stretches without
because I lost something, but because I stopped resisting change. I stopped trying to stay the same for the sake of stability. The road ahead feels wide, not because it's empty, but because it's mine to travel. I move with intention, with gratitude behind me and openness ahead. I am no longer holding my freedom at a safe distance. I am stepping into it fully, allowing it to shape me, stretch me, challenge me. This movement isn't escape, it's release. It's trusting that growth deserves space, and that I deserve to follow it wherever it leads. I keep moving now, not to outrun anything, but to stay honest.
I spent a long time moving through crowds without feeling seen. Not because anyone ignored me, but because I kept myself slightly out of focus. I learned how to blend into motion, how to nod along, how to let the noise decide my pace. It felt safer to follow the rhythm already playing than to admit I didn't know what my own sounded like anymore. I told myself I was adaptable, easygoing, unbothered. What I really was disconnected. When I stayed awake longer than I needed to, not chasing answers, just avoiding the quiet. Silence made space for thoughts I didn't want to entertain. Questions about why I kept repeating the same patterns, why I felt restless even when nothing was wrong. I distracting myself with movement, with habits, with anything that kept me from sitting still long enough to notice how far I drifted from myself. I had learned how to perform normalcy, well I knew how to laugh at the right moments, how to mirror energy, how to stay agreeable, but beneath that surface I felt hollow in a specific way, like I was constantly reacting. Instead of choosing I wasn't unhappy, which somehow made it harder to justify change. I was just unsatisfied, just numb enough to tolerate it, and that scared me more than failure ever could. The breaking point wasn't dramatic, it was subtle and deeply personal. I caught myself waiting for someone else's signal before making a simple decision, as if my instincts need external approval to be valid. The moment stopped me cold. I realized how often I had outsourced my confidence, letting circumstances and other people define my direction. I wasn't lost because I lacked options. I was lost because I wasn't listening inward. I started paying attention to the small impulses I usually ignored, the urge to move differently, to speak honestly, to spend time alone without filling it with distraction. At first it felt awkward, like being alone in a room without a script. I didn't know how to act without an audience, didn't know how to measure myself without comparison. That discomfort exposed how dependent I had become on external rhythm. I decided to stay with that discomfort instead of escaping it. I let myself move without reference, think without filtering, exist without performing. It felt strange and raw, but also clean. For the first time in a while, my actions weren't responses, they were expressions. I wasn't trying to impress or align or disappear. I was just present, feeling my way forward without asking permission. As I leaned into that space, I noticed something shift. My thoughts grew clearer, less cluttered by expectation. I started trusting my reactions again, not because they were always right, but because they were mine. I understood that growth didn't require an audience, it required honesty. I didn't need validation to move, I needed alignment between what I felt and what I did. There were moments when old habits tried to pull me back, the urge to check, to compare, to wait for feedback before committing. I recognized those urges for what they were, reflexes from a version of myself that needed constant confirmation. I didn't fight them aggressively, I simply chose differently. Each time I acted on my own timing, something inside me steadied. I learned how to enjoy my own momentum, how to let movement be its own reward. I didn't need to be seen to feel real, I didn't need noise to feel alive. I found energy in intention, confidence in repetition. The more I trusted myself, the less I needed external rhythm to stay in motion. I began to feel grounded in a way that didn't depend on anyone else keeping time. The world didn't suddenly change, but my relationship to it did. I stopped adjusting myself to fit every space I entered. I
attach. It made me clear I could connect without dissolving, participate without disappearing. I wasn't guarding myself, I was anchoring myself. I started to ring myself, I started to enjoy solitude in a new way. Not as isolation, but as calibration. Time alone became a place where I reset instead of hid. I listened to my thoughts without judgment, noticed patterns without labeling them as flaws. I treated growth as something active, something practiced daily through awareness and choice. I wasn't reinventing myself, I was reclaiming parts I had muted. There was freedom in realizing that I didn't need a perfect environment to move forward. I just needed honesty with myself. I could act without certainty, decide without consensus, change direction without explanation. That autonomy felt electric, not chaotic but focused. I trusted myself to adapt if things shifted. I trusted myself to recover if I misstep. Now when I move, I feel connected to the rhythm I'm creating. It's not loud or performative, it's steady and intentional. I don't wait for cues anymore. I don't look around to see if I'm allowed to take up space.
I stood at the edge of a moment that felt larger than anything I had faced before. Not because it was loud or urgent, but because it demanded honesty. Everything behind me pressed forward at once, memories, mistakes, unfinished versions of myself asking to be acknowledged. I've spent so long preparing for some undefined future that I forgot to stand fully in the present. The pause before action felt endless, heavy with expectation, and I questioned whether I had the right to step beyond what I already knew. I had built my life on anticipation, always looking ahead for the signal that it was time to begin. I told myself I was being patient, that timing mattered more than courage. In reality, I was avoiding the weight of decision. I stayed suspended between what I had been and what I might become. Afraid that choosing one direction would permanently close another, that fear kept me still, orbiting possibilities instead of committing to any of them. The silence in that waiting space was deceptive. It felt calm, but underneath it carried pressure. I could feel it in my chest, the tension of unused momentum. I replayed old outcomes, rehearsed future scenarios, and convinced myself that preparation was the same as progress. But preparation without action became its own kind of trap. The more I planned, the less I moved, and the less I trusted myself to adapt once things were in motion. There was a moment when the weight of hesitation became heavier than the fear of stepping forward. I realized that standing still was not neutral. It was a choice that carried consequences I had been pretending not to see. Every moment I delayed was shaping me just as much as any bold move could that awareness cut through the fog. I understood that growth wasn't waiting for me on the other side of certainty. It was waiting on the other side of commitment. I stopped asking myself if I was ready and started asking myself if I was willing. Willing to be uncertain, willing to be seen trying, willing to adjust when things didn't go as planned. That shift reframed everything. I didn't need to know exactly how it would unfold. I needed to trust my ability to respond as it did. The future didn't require perfection from me, it required presence. As that understanding settled in, something inside me aligned. The noise of imagined outcomes faded, replaced by a focused clarity. I saw that every ending I feared was also a beginning. I hadn't considered letting go of old versions of myself. Didn't mean erasing them. It meant carrying their lessons forward without letting them dictate my limits. I wasn't abandoning my past, I was repositioning it. I felt the pull of forward motion grow stronger, like a countdown reaching its final seconds. Not rushed, not chaotic, but inevitable. Each internal hesitation felt less convincing than the last. I recognized how much energy I had spent bracing for impact instead of building momentum. I redirected that energy into intention. I chose direction over delay, engagement over observation. When I took that first decisive step, it didn't feel explosive. It felt grounding, like locking into a trajectory and finally allowing gravity to do its work. The fear didn't disappear, but it stopped feeling like a barrier. It became a signal that something meaningful was underway. I understood that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the refusal to let fear freeze me in place. As I moved forward, I noticed how my internal voice changed. It no longer asked if I should turn back. It asked how I could move more deliberately. Each action reinforced the next, creating a rhythm that carried me beyond hesitation. I wasn't chasing certainty anymore. I was creating continuity. Progress stopped feeling feeling fragile and started feeling earned. There were moments when the scale of what I was stepping into felt overwhelming. The future stretched wide and undefined. Instead of retreating, I narrowed my focus to what was directly in front of me. The next decision, the next effort, the next honest response. I learned that direction doesn't require seeing the entire path. It requires committing to the step you're on. Momentum transformed my relationship with time. I stopped counting down to some distant breakthrough and started valuing the build itself. Every choice to stay engaged strengthened my confidence. Not loud confidence, but durable confidence. The kind that holds under pressure because it's rooted in action, not imagination. I trusted myself more with each forward move. Not because outcomes improved instantly, but because I proved I could handle the unknown. I began to feel aligned with the scale of what I was pursuing. I no longer felt small in the face of possibility. I felt capable of growing into it. The future wasn't something I had to conquer. It was something I was actively entering, shaped by each decision I made along the way. That realization stripped away the urgency and replaced it with resolve.
I used to carry every opinion like a compass. Let every reaction tell me where to turn. I learned how to read rooms before reading myself, how to adjust my edges so nothing felt threatened. I called it cooperation, I called it understanding. But somewhere in that balance I stopped recognizing my own direction. I spent years believing connection meant agreement, that harmony required compromise at my expense. I softened my wants until they sounded optional, delayed my truth until it felt inconvenient. I told myself this was maturity, that flexibility meant wisdom, but the silence it created inside me was louder than any conflict I avoided. There were moments I felt the pull to speak clearly, to choose without asking how it would land. But I hesitated, afraid that choosing myself would create distance, afraid that standing firm would be misunderstood. So I stayed in the middle, calling it peace, even when it felt like erasure. I became fluent in second guessing, turning instincts into negotiations. I waited for alignment from the outside, as if direction needed consensus. I trusted other people's certainty more than my own hesitation, and slowly my confidence learned how to defer. I didn't feel trapped, just postponed, like a decision waiting on conditions that never quite arrived. I kept thinking clarity would come once everyone else was comfortable, once the timing felt right, once the noise settled. But the noise never settles, it only shifts. And one day I noticed how tired I was, not from effort, from constant adjustment, from carrying expectations that weren't designed to support me. That awareness didn't arrive with anger, it arrived with calm, a steady realization that agreement is not the same as alignment, that belonging doesn't require self-neglect, and that compromise without choice is not balance. I started listening inward without urgency, without the need to explain. I noticed which thoughts stayed when the opinions faded, which eyes that turned when I stopped managing perception. What remained felt simple, not easy, but honest. I realized I had been asking permission to follow instincts that never needed approval. I had been editing myself to keep things smooth, even when smoothness cost me direction. I understood then that clarity doesn't ask to be liked, so I stopped negotiating my own choices, stopped waiting for agreement. I didn't announce this shift, I barely trusted it myself, but I felt something stabilize as soon as I let my decision stand. The first times felt uncomfortable, like choosing a different rhythm than the one everyone expected, but that discomfort carried relief, a sense of integrity returning. I wasn't rejecting anyone, I was reclaiming myself. I learned that confidence doesn't demand space, it occupies it quietly without apology. It doesn't explain itself repeatedly, it doesn't retreat when challenged, it simply remains consistent. There were reactions I didn't anticipate, some confusion, some distance, disagreement with failure. Stopped assuming tension meant I was wrong. I allowed myself to stand by choices even when they weren't mirrored. I discovered that self-respect is often quiet, but unmistakable. The urge to revert still appears sometimes, to smooth edges, to compromise prematurely. But I recognize that impulse now. I understand its origin, and I choose differently more often than not. I trust my internal signal over external comfort. I don't need to prove independence or dramatize separation. I simply move according to what fits, what aligns, what allows me to stay present in my own decisions. I understand now that choosing myself doesn't require rejection, only honesty. I no longer ask if my direction is convenient or if my timing makes sense to everyone else. I ask if it's true, if it's sustainable, if it allows me to remain whole. That question answers everything I need. There's a steadiness in me now, not rigid, grounded. I make choices knowing they may evolve, and I trust myself to adjust without retreating. I no longer confuse flexibility with self-abandonment. I let others choose their paths without feeling responsible for their reactions. I release the need to manage outcomes that are mine to carry. I understand now that respect begins internally. I don't explain my direction in advance. I let it speak through consistency, through follow through, through staying aligned when it would be easier to bend. I don't need validation to continue, I need integrity. What I'm building isn't loud, it's durable. A sense of self that doesn't fracture when challenged, a confidence that doesn't dissolve under external pressure. I move with intention now, not rushing, not waiting, just choosing and standing by that choice long enough to feel it take shape. I trust the process, I'm inside. There are moments when doubt tries to re-enter, asking if this is the right way, if I should soften my stance. But I recognize that voice.
I used to measure my days by how heavy they fell when I tried to carry them alone. Morning light would spill into the room and I would pretend not to see it, as if ignoring the day could keep it from asking anything of me. I knew how to function, how to move through routines without really arriving anywhere. I smiled when expected, nodded at the right moments, but inside I felt like I was slowly dimming, conserving energy instead of living. I told myself it was temporary, that I was just catching my breath, but deep down I sensed I had been holding still for far too long. I kept replaying old choices like unfinished songs, wondering if a different turn would have changed the rhythm of my life. Doubt settled in quietly, not as panic, but as a low hum that never really went away. It followed me through conversations, through late nights, through moments that should have felt meaningful. I questioned my instincts, second-guessed my direction. I slowly stopped trusting my own voice. I didn't feel lost in a dramatic way, just disconnected, like I had stepped out of sync with spoke to myself in warnings instead of possibilities. Every idea came with a list of reasons it might not work. Every spark of excitement was quickly contained. I asked myself when I decided that caution mattered more than growth. That question lingered, uncomfortable but honest. It forced me to confront the fact that I wasn't protecting myself anymore. I was limiting myself. I started paying attention to the small pull forward that never fully disappeared. Even on my worst days, there was a part of me that leaned towards something better, something truer. I didn't know exactly what it looked like, but I knew how it felt. It felt like curiosity instead of fear, like movement instead of waiting. I understood then that belief wasn't something I either had or lost. It was something I practiced, something I chose again and again despite uncertainty. I decided to stop demanding certainty from the future. I accepted that confidence would not arrive fully formed. It would build through action, through mistakes, through showing up before I felt ready. I began to replace hesitation with intention. Instead of asking if I would fail, I asked what I would learn. Instead of asking if it was safe, I asked if it was honest. That shifted and erased fear, but it changed who was in control. As I moved forward, I noticed how my internal voice softened. It stopped interrogating every step and started offering guidance. Instead, I felt grounded in my choices, even when outcomes were unclear. I wasn't chasing approval or trying to prove resilience. I was responding to a quiet, steady conviction that I deserve momentum. Progress became less about speed and more about alignment. Each decision reinforced the next, creating a rhythm I could trust. There were moments when the old doubts resurfaced, trying to remind me of all the times I hesitated before I let them speak. Without letting them decide, I learned that belief didn't mean ignoring my past. It meant not being ruled by it. I carried my experiences with me, not as weight, but as reference. They informed me without defining me. I felt stronger, not because everything was working, but because I kept moving even when it didn't. I began to recognize myself again in unexpected ways. In the way I stood a little taller, in the way I listened more closely to my instincts, in the way I allowed hope to exist without demanding proof. I stopped waiting for a breakthrough moment and started valuing consistency. The act of continuing became its own form of confidence. I trusted that direction would reveal itself through motion, not thought alone. Now I don't measure my days by certainty or success, I measure them by commitment. I wake up knowing that belief is not a finish line. It is a practice, I carry it with me in every decision to move forward, every refusal to retreat into doubt. I am no longer asking the future to promise me anything. I am choosing to believe in my ability to grow into whatever comes next. Step by step, fully present, and finally moving with intention. I used to think movement was something that happened to other people, like momentum belonged to those who knew where they were going. I stayed close to what was familiar, Not because it felt right, but because it felt explainable. I learned how to stand still with purpose, or at least that's what I told myself. Oh. I watched the days line up like empty streets, all direction, no ignition. I kept my plan small enough to manage, my hopes quiet enough to control. I said I was being realistic, but realism slowly turned into hesitation, and hesitation learned how to sound responsible. I carried a map I never unfolded, afraid of what it might ask of me, afraid that once I saw the distance I wouldn't be able to pretend that staying put was a choice instead of a delay I had normalized. There was a restlessness in me I tried to outrun, not by moving but by explaining why now wasn't the time, why later made more sense, why patience was the same as progress. Even when nothing changed, I felt strongest when nothing was demanded, when no direction was required. But that strength dissolved the moment I imagined committing to a path, because commitment meant friction, and friction meant exposure, and exposure meant finding out what I was really made of. I told myself I needed clarity, but clarity never came from waiting. It came in fragments, in moments when my chest tightened, not from fear, but from recognition. Moments when standing still felt heavier than the risk of stepping forward. I realized I wasn't afraid of failing, I was afraid of choosing, afraid of putting my weight behind a direction and discovering I couldn't turn back without cost. So I kept everything reversible and called that freedom. But reversible lives don't build momentum, they hover, they circle the same exits. And one day I noticed how tired I was, not from running, but from preparing to run. That awareness didn't arrive as urgency, it arrived as honesty, a clear understanding that waiting had become a comfortable form of hiding, and that motion, even imperfect motion, would teach me more than endless readiness ever could. So I stopped asking the road to guarantee anything, stopped demanding proof before movement. I accepted that direction isn't something you discover, it's something you commit to and learn while moving through it. I didn't need a dramatic escape, I needed ignition, a reason to stay in motion even when doubt rode in the passenger seat. I didn't try to silence it, I just stopped letting it drive. The first steps felt awkward, like moving after standing too long. My sense of balance had to relearn itself, but with every mile I imagined something inside me straighten out louder, just more certain. I stopped treating the future like a negotiation, stopped waiting for it to agree with me. I understood that belief isn't a feeling you wait for, it's something that forms when action and intention start aligning. I began to trust the act of moving forward, even without a clear destination, because motion revealed what still fit and what needed to be left behind. I wasn't running from my life, I was finally entering it. There were moments when the past tried to catch up, remind me of comfort, of familiar exits, of reasons to slow down. But I recognize the difference between caution and avoidance, and I chose momentum. I learned that confidence grows in transit, is shaped by effort, by repetition, by staying present when things stretch beyond comfort. It doesn't appear all at once. It accumulates quietly, like distance covered without announcement. I stopped measuring progress by arrival and started measuring it by commitment, by how often I showed up even when the outcome stayed unclear. I realized that direction doesn't demand certainty. It responds to consistency. There's a different energy in me now. Not reckless, resolved, I move with purpose. Not because I know exactly where this leads, but because standing still no longer tells the truth. I don't romanticize the struggle, but I don't fear it either. I understand now that pressure is part of propulsion, and resistance is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that movement is happening. I let myself want without apology, let ambition exist without explanation. I stopped shrinking my vision to keep it manageable. I learned that growth doesn't ask for permission, it responds to courage applied daily. The road ahead doesn't promise clarity, but it offers honesty. And honesty is enough to keep me moving, enough to keep my hands steady, enough to trust the direction my effort creates. I no longer wait for the perfect moment or the right conditions. I know now that momentum is built in imperfect circumstances, by people willing to move anyway. I carry my doubts with awareness, not obedience. They remind me to stay awake, not to slow down. They don't get to decide the pace. I stand behind my choices now, even when they evolve, even when they demand adjustment. I understand that changing direction is not the same as losing it. I woke up with the weight of yesterday pressing on my chest like a door that would not open. The mirror didn't argue with me, it just stared back, silent and tired, reflecting a version of myself that had spent too long standing still. I've been running on echoes, promises I once believed in, but never checked on again. Every step forward felt borrowed, every breath felt like it came with a question I didn't want to answer. I kept telling myself it was fine to drift, fine to wait, fine to let the days decide for me. But deep down I knew that waiting had slowly turned into heartache. The noise in my head was loud enough to drown out my own thoughts. Regret didn't shout, it whispered, and that made it harder to fight. I replayed moments where I almost chose differently, where courage was right there and I let it pass me by. I told myself I was protecting what I had left, but really I was afraid of losing even more. Fear dressed itself up as caution, and I let it sit beside me like an old friend. I forgot what it felt like to trust my own momentum, to believe that movement itself could be a form of healing. There was a night when the walls felt closer than usual, when the silence had teeth. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt proud of how I carried myself through the dark. Not because I had failed, but because I had stopped trying. That thought hit harder than any loss. I wasn't broken, I was paused, and somehow that felt worse. I had been waiting for permission to begin again, as if the world owed me a sign, as shifted when I stopped asking why. Everything went wrong and started asking why I was still here. The answer didn't come as a sentence, it came as a feeling, small but stubborn. It reminded me that I had survived things I once thought would end me. I didn't survive by being perfect, I survived by adapting, by learning how to stand back up without applause. I started to see that strength wasn't something I lost, it was something I stopped using. It had been patient, waiting for me to remember it. I took inventory of the scars I used to hide and noticed how none of them were empty. Each one carried proof that I kept going. Even when I didn't feel brave, I saw patterns in my own behavior, loops I kept walking in because they felt familiar. Familiar didn't mean safe, it just meant known. That realization cut through the fog. I didn't need a dramatic escape, I needed a decision, one clear, honest decision to move instead of repeat. I told myself that the past didn't get to define the size of my future. It could inform me, teach me, warn me, but it couldn't lead me anymore. I felt something tighten and then release inside my chest, like a knot finally giving up. I wasn't suddenly fearless, but I was done negotiating with doubt. I didn't need to feel ready, I needed to act ready. There was power in choosing motion before confidence caught up. I started small, let in intention shape my steps. I paid attention to what drained me and what gave something back. I stopped rehearsing old arguments in my head and started listening to the quiet moments where my instincts spoke up. They weren't loud, but they were consistent. I learned that rebuilding didn't mean becoming someone new. It meant returning to myself with better boundaries and sharper awareness. I wasn't chasing a version of me that never failed, I was building one that didn't quit. The road ahead didn't suddenly clear, but it felt honest. Every choice I made from that point on carried weight, and I welcomed it. Responsibility stopped feeling like a threat and started feeling like ownership. I wasn't proving anything, anyone watching, I was answering to myself. Each step forward felt like reclaiming ground I had given up without a fight. Momentum grew quietly, stacking day by day, decision by decision. There were moments when the old doubts tried to pull me back, reminding me of how easy it would be to stay comfortable in uncertainty. I acknowledged them without letting them drive. I learned that resilience wasn't about silencing fear, it was about moving with it in the passenger seat instead of handing it the wheel. I kept my eyes forward, focused on the version of myself that kept showing up even when motivation wavered. Now when I look in the mirror, I don't expect answers, I look for alignment. I see someone who understands that growth isn't loud, but it is relentless. I am not waiting for a perfect moment anymore, I am creating forward motion with imperfect hands and a steady will. Every breath feels earned, every step feels intentional. I am not living on what might save me someday, I am standing on what I choose to build today. And I am moving, fully aware, fully committed.